Go ahead.
Okay, once we have soldered the two ends of the bezel together, you're going to want to use a bezel mandrel to get it the shape of your stone. So it's really easy to move at this point because it's annealed, but once you get it to this part, all you need to do is just gently, against a steel block or the table, just gently turn and hammer down with a leather mallet or a plastic mallet, and that'll just kind of slide as it goes. It is a tapered mandrel, so often I will turn it after a couple of hammer strokes. Remember, you're holding this 3/4 of the way down and you're using your fingers and just letting the weight of the mallet do the work. Once you have that circle, you're going to double test it on your stone. It should fit loosely. You don't want it orbiting, but you don't want to have to push it down to fit over that. So it's a nice loose sleeve. This is ready to go. At this point, don't worry about the height of the bezel to the height of the stone. We'll solve that later. Once you know that that's perfectly around, then you're ready to get it soldered down onto your piece. The stone, go ahead and put that back in your bag and get that put away. Now, I did not talk you through a reminder about doing the pickling. This piece right here did not heat enough to need pickling. This piece looks like it has some fire scale on it, so I would probably want to pickle that before I got that soldered down. So we're going to go ahead and use this, double check that it's perfectly around, double check that it is the size I need, and I'm going to go ahead and lay it on my base layer. Now for this layer right here, I'm going to go ahead and do some sawing later, design-wise up here. So I'm going to center it down lower. Every bezel set needs a base layer. Some of you guys are going to saw this and just have a bezel cap. Some of you guys, this is your base piece and that's your final design. And some of you will do some sawing and drilling after to do a decorative element on this. If your piece is big enough, you can do your sawing before you solder it down. If you have a smaller piece, I suggest soldering the bezel down first before you do your sawing. We're going to need some flux. If I used hard solder to solder this together, I can use either medium or easy. If I use medium solder to solder this together, I'm going to go ahead and use easy or extra easy. So you want to go down in a melting temperature. Coating the piece with flux, all sides, really important with that to help protect from fire scale. Now, the one thing that I did forget to show you first, let me do that real quick, is if this is too tight on your stone, you can go ahead and put it on the bezel mandrel and use the forging hammer, and I suggest you use one of these. Reminder, it will push the metal up and down. So if you want to stretch that, you're going to hammer strike this way on there. You don't want to stretch that one out because it's perfect. So I will show you what it looks like on here. Letting the weight of the hammer do the work. I do a couple of strokes, test it, couple of strokes, test it until it fits. If you hammer a lot significantly on here and work hard in it, you might have to anneal it before you come back here to hammer some more. If your piece is too big, you're going to have to tin snip it open, trim it down, and resolder it together. But we have this that fits. You'll notice that this side of the piece has a roll mill texture on it. If I try and solder on a roll mill texture, I can run into some problems because it doesn't fit flush. So I'm going to go ahead and solder on the other side of this just so it's easier for you guys to see. I have coated that with flux. Get it on my solder block. And I have a couple pieces off here of easy that I'm going to grab with my brush, and I'm going to drop them on the inside edge. So just get them in there first. For this size bezel, I'm going to use probably 4. If I have a larger 8 or 10 millimeter stone, I might want to use 6 little pieces. And then usually a toothpick works the best. I'm going to slide that so that the solder chips are in there. They touch the wall of the bezel, but they're laying on the base. Slide that up. Some of you guys will have some problems if you have larger hands Sometimes it's helpful to let the flux dry on this bezel before you drop your solder on, and that'll help hold it in place. So I want to end up with a solder chip here, 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 and here, kind of like opposites on a clock. Once I have that, if I need to reapply flux on here because my fingers took it away, I can do that. Once I have this where I need it to be, I'm ready to head over to get this soldered down.